Ms. Atwin, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being with us, Premier Higgs. And I just have 6 minutes, and so I will be going pretty fast with my questions, so I'm not trying to be rude. So I know today that, in the provincial legislature, there was set to be a debate on removing the provincial sales tax from the looming electricity increases that we're going to be seeing in the province on April 1st. And you denied, your party denied that debate, and you're here with us instead. So is this for a case of look over here and not what I have control over back at home?
No, control over is a reactionary process of what we're seeing across the country of increased costs. So that was my point in relation to we have a policy that incurs a counter policy to offset a poor policy. Okay. And that's
sorry, I have to keep going. So Premier Higgs, when you decided to drop the New Brunswick carbon pricing system, you said at the time during your press conference, and I'm going to quote you here, "We know that recently and especially over the last few months, New Brunswickers have been feeling the impacts of inflation and are struggling with the higher prices on everything from food to fuel. By changing our approach, we can help New Brunswickers get money back into their pockets in the form of a quarterly rebate check from the federal government." I happen to agree with you, Premier, but I see that you've recently changed your stance on this. So
no,
is it the case that you're more interested in playing politics than actually looking after the affordability of New Brunswickers and tackling climate change?
Well, on the contrary, I think the playing politics I've witnessed here in the last half hour. The point of the issue on the carbon tax is saying, all right, can we, if we adopt the backstop, then people will get a check. Is that check offsetting the real costs they have? No, it's not.
Can you table that information to show us that the calculations?
With the calculation going right through to groceries, to cost of commodities, because it's more than fuel. With us? It's more than fuel. Yeah, I think there's a recent study, whether it was a Fraser Institute, that was showing the impact on the carbon tax. I know what the Bank of Canada has said recently, but there are many studies showing that. So I'm sure there's other relevant data.
How much is the average rebate for a New Brunswicker, including the 20% rural top-up?
It's probably around $200, I think, a month, quarter, or in that range. About $700 a year, $736 a year.
I'm also going to quote, you've got a Twitter post here about your appearance today. You mentioned participating in the Standing Committee of Government Operations and Estimates to relay your concerns and stop the tax grab once and for all. So, sir, are you familiar with the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act?
Somewhat, maybe not as familiar as you are at this stage.
So Section 2.2 is the return of pollution pricing fuel charge proceeds to jurisdictions, and it breaks down the rebate process. So 90% of the fuel charge proceeds are returned directly to individuals and families through the Canadian carbon rebate. The remainder of the fuel charge proceeds are returned through federal programming to support schools, hospitals, small and medium-sized businesses, colleges, universities, municipalities. So I'm just wondering, which of the projects would you not have support? Would you like us to not see supported? There's energy retrofits for Indigenous communities infrastructure. We've got schools that are bringing down their price on their pollution in general, and they're actually saving money in their bills. So would you like to see these programs canceled along with the rebates?
Well, I think we were supplying supports to a lot of initiatives around through these different communities prior to a carbon tax ever coming on. To say we create more hurt on people in order to provide more federal money to distribute as they would see fit, I don't think that's a solution. I don't think that just charging people more so the federal government can have more say in where the money is distributed. I do not think that is a policy that you hurt one group in order to distribute to another.
So also, Mr. Premier, New Brunswick government passed legislation in 2022 to allow oil companies to pass clean fuel charges onto consumers and instructed the Energy and Utilities Board to determine what hypothetical costs might be. An independent analysis determined that here in New Brunswick, we are compensating companies for costs that do not exist, overcharging New Brunswickers at the pump anywhere from 5.6 cents to 8 cents a liter. So how much of this is rebated back to New Brunswickers?
So, Ms. Allen, are you familiar with the fact that we have regulated pricing here in New Brunswick and in Nova Scotia and in Newfoundland and PEI?
So it's actually my questioning time, sir.
No, well, I guess let's put all the facts on the table because every one of those provinces.
Why is it okay to give money to oil and gas companies and not to New Brunswickers?
Let me answer your question. Every one of those provinces raised their price when the Clean Fuel Standards Act came into play. Every one of them. And our price is the cheapest that's in Atlantic Canada. So why did they do that? Why did they do that? I'll answer why they did that. because the regulated pricing formula includes regulated changes to industry that are brought down by government. So that's why they did that. Our change was only to reflect the same logic that other regulated pricing has. Now, we could argue whether
And
regulated
yet we see
pricing makes
more
sense or
expensive
doesn't
gas
make
in New
sense.
Brunswick than the rest of the
But
country.
no, I'm telling you the same thing was raised in the other 3 provinces. Maybe you missed that, but because it seems to have not been talked about much. Regulated pricing causes for a complete addition of all the incurred costs in order to arrive at the retail price.
So you disagree with the independent analysis that says that we're overcharging New Brunswickers at the pump?
Well, we have EUB looking at that. That's the purpose.
Sir, we've seen that greenhouse gas emissions have come down by 8%. You've mentioned that this policy has done nothing. There's no measurable impact, and that the Canadian Climate Institute would disagree. Are you prepared to table a plan for New Brunswick that could achieve the similar or better results?
Worldwide, absolutely.
For Canada?
Well, Canada, that's just the whole point. We're thinking in a bubble. We are not thinking. Do you think that if China is building 80 to 90 coal plants a year, that would dwarf anything we can do in Canada? That we're safe,
so you don't think
we're
we should do
solving
anything in
climate
Canada?
change? I propose to make the difference worldwide that we can actually achieve.
Why
Premier,
could you
sorry to
cancel your
interrupt.
New Brunswick
Premier
plan?
Higgs, that is our time. Ms. Atwin,